At 7:35 a.m. on November 16, 2025, in the heart of the Caribbean Sea, a scene began to unfold that felt almost impossible to believe. Three Venezuelan naval vessels suddenly picked up speed, tightened into formation, and moved directly toward a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier that was lawfully sailing through international waters. On the American side, radar displays lit up at once. Alerts rang through the Combat Information Center. Escort destroyers repositioned their gun systems, long-range cameras fixed on the incoming ships, and on the flight deck, a Seahawk helicopter stood just seconds from launch. Venezuela offered no response, no explanation, no signal of intent, just three fast-moving warships cutting through the water, growing more assertive with every minute. Then the moment shifted in a way no one had anticipated. If you had been on that carrier's deck right then, would you have held your nerve or started bracing for the worst? Shortly after the hour, a faint triple return appeared on the SPY-1D radar aboard the escort destroyer USS Gravely. Three contacts, minimal signature, moving faster than coastal patrol boats normally would at that hour. Bridge, CIC, new surface tracks bearing 215, speed increasing, possibly Venezuelan Navy. No one showed much on the surface, but every sailor understood the weight behind those words. 2 weeks earlier, after a tense encounter with Venezuelan fast boats that ignored American warnings, officials in Caracas had promised there would be a response. No one knew what that would look like, until now. Within 40 seconds, the radar picture sharpened into clear outlines, one frigate in the lead, followed by two patrol gunboats. All three were making more than 24 knots, well above an ordinary transit speed. More concerning still, their projected track led straight toward the U.S. Carrier Strike Group. Inside Gravely's Combat Information Center, the mood stayed cool and controlled. Classification matches Guayquerí-class frigate with patrol craft, closing fast. On the bridge of the Eisenhower, the officer of the deck did not flinch. Log it. Issue hail. The first warning went out over an open channel. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. Alter course immediately. No answer. The message was repeated in Spanish. Still nothing. At that point, it no longer felt like confusion. It looked intentional. Back in CIC, the bearings shifted again, slightly but unmistakably. The Venezuelan formation drew even tighter. One patrol boat edged inward, setting up an approach along the carrier's starboard side. The other increased speed toward port. It was a classic pressure maneuver. CPA now 3.4 nautical miles and shrinking. The Eisenhower stayed on course. Carrier doctrine was clear. Remain predictable, remain lawful, remain steady. But the escorts had room to maneuver. USS Gravely adjusted position, turning just enough to place itself between the carrier and the nearest approaching ship. USS Laboon mirrored the move on the opposite side. Nothing about it was openly provocative. It was simply a message. The carrier would not stand alone. Then came the first clear sign of a higher stakes moment. CICEW reports spike. Surface search radar from the frigate just went active. It was not fire control radar, but it was still a serious step. Serious enough to change the tone aboard all three American ships. Gravely's long-range optics zoomed in across the water. Sailors could be seen on the deck of the Venezuelan frigate, helmets on, standing near the forward 76mm gun mount. They were not operating it, but they were close enough to make the signal unmistakable. Time kept moving. At 7:39, the Venezuelan formation surged again. Heat shimmer rose from their turbines into the morning air. Speed climbed to 26 knots, then 27. CPA now 2.6. They're not slowing. On Eisenhower's flight deck, the crew worked in silence as an MH-60R Seahawk was rolled into launch position. It was not set up for direct engagement. Its mission was observation, visual tracking, and visible deterrence. But everyone understood that once a helicopter was overhead, the situation would enter a new phase immediately. Over the radio, Venezuela still said nothing. Gravely transmitted again, shorter this time and far more direct. Venezuelan vessels, you're creating an unsafe crossing situation. Alter course now. Still no reply. Then a small alert tone sounded from the electronic warfare station. One of the Venezuelan patrol boats had emitted a brief frequency sweep. Probing, testing, gathering data. That's targeting behavior, the EW officer said quietly. It was not a firing lock, not yet. But the situation was moving closer to that threshold. At 7:42, all three Venezuelan ships shifted course at the same moment, turning in more aggressively toward the carrier group than they had at any earlier point. CIC to bridge. They're committing to the intercept. In that instant, under the calm light of a Caribbean morning, the U.S. Carrier Strike Group understood one thing with complete clarity. This was no longer simple shadowing. This was a direct test. By 7:43 a.m., the sea remained calm, but the atmosphere had completely changed. The Venezuelan ships had tightened into a spearhead formation, with the frigate at the front and the two patrol gunboats set behind it like flanking wings. Their wakes cut sharp white streaks across the blue water, all pointing toward the carrier. Every sailor aboard the escort ships knew exactly what that signaled. This was not casual maneuvering. This was not an ordinary patrol pattern. This was pressure, applied on purpose. Inside Gravely's CIC, the glow from the screen seemed sharper as the tracking picture refined. CPA 1.9 nautical miles, time to CPA under 6 minutes. The room felt heavier now. No one had to explain what everyone already understood. The encounter had moved into close quarters, and in close quarters, even a small mistake can escalate far faster than anyone wants. At 7:44, Eisenhower gave the order with complete precision. Launch the Seahawk! On the flight deck, the MH-60R's rotors spun into a blur. Sailors in yellow jerseys guided it forward as rotor wash tore across the deck. The helicopter lifted cleanly, banked hard, and swept low over the water. Its sensor turret was already turning. Inside the aircraft, the sensor operator brought the MX-20 electro-optical system online. Target visual, multiple heat signatures, topside. Venezuelan crew moving around the forward gun. The pilots dropped to 200 feet, cutting through the humid Caribbean air. Their mission was narrow and deliberate: confirm visually, apply non-lethal pressure, and break the momentum of the approach. At 7:45, the Venezuelan patrol boat on the right flank suddenly accelerated. Foam burst from its bow as it shifted its angle, not toward the carrier now, but toward Gravely's bridge. CIC, hostile maneuver developing starboard side. The destroyer altered course by 5 degrees, just enough to avoid a crossing hazard while still covering the carrier. No abrupt move, no loss of control, just disciplined defensive positioning. Then came another step up. The Venezuelan frigate switched to a more powerful radar mode. Still not guidance radar, but much closer than anyone wanted to see. Spike detected. They're painting us harder now. Seconds later, the Seahawk approached from the port side and hovered wide of the frigate. The pilots flashed a bright green laser warning across the Venezuelan bridge windows. A standard NATO non-lethal signal. Everyone saw it. Everyone understood it. We see you. Back off. At 7:46, there was finally visible movement on the Venezuelan bridge. A figure stepped forward with binoculars and looked straight at the helicopter. Still no radio response. Instead, the frigate turned another 5 degrees inward, closer, tighter, more deliberate. On Gravely, the 5-inch gun mount shifted slightly. It stayed lowered, but the message was clear. Capability without provocation, readiness without panic. At 7:47, the Venezuelan patrol boat on the left flank swung wider, almost too wide. Contact Sierra 12 closing on unsafe vector. From the Seahawk, the pilots could see the maneuver clearly. The gunboat was trying to bracket the formation, pushing into the gap between the destroyer and the carrier's port side. It was a risky move. One bad angle, and two ships could meet at 25 knots. The Seahawk responded at once, dropping low across the gunboat's bow and releasing a flare off to the right side. Non-threatening, but impossible to miss. Stop. Now. The Venezuelan crew visibly recoiled as the flare reflected across the water. The gunboat hesitated for only a second, but that second was enough to prevent a collision path from becoming something worse. By 7:48, all three ships were still moving ahead, though their pace had eased as if their crews were deciding whether the display of pressure had already gone far enough. But the most important part of the moment was not only what Venezuela was doing, it was what the U.S. side was recording. The SLQ-32 V6 electronic warfare suite was capturing every radar mode, every frequency shift, every change in power output. Bridge, this is EW. We're collecting their full signature profile. If this encounter ever reached Washington, the recorded data would matter far more than any public statement. At 7:49, the Seahawk made another pass, this time wider, circling above the frigate like a silent observer. On the Venezuelan deck, crew members stepped back from the forward gun position. One sailor slowly lifted both hands, palms out, a familiar maritime gesture showing no intention to push things further. But even then, the ships did not break away. Not yet. They held formation, engines rumbling, hulls cutting forward through the water, as if daring the U.S. side to make the first dramatic move. The carrier stayed steady. The escort stayed steady, and the standoff tightened into its most dangerous stretch, the uneasy moment before one side finally chose to back off. At 7:50 a.m., for 15 full seconds, nothing changed. Not the carrier, not the escorts, not the Venezuelan ships advancing across the sea. It was the kind of silence that did not calm anyone. It only made the risk feel even greater. Every vessel was now close enough that one wrong turn or one misunderstood signal could turn a tense morning in the Caribbean into a serious international crisis. Inside Gravely's CIC, the pressure climbed another notch. CPA under 1 nautical mile. That was the kind of distance where commanders stopped talking about policy and started preparing for the consequences of a split-second mistake. Then something subtle shifted. The lead Venezuelan frigate reduced speed by 2 knots, just 2. It seemed minor, but trained eyes caught it immediately. The wake shortened, the exhaust plume softened, the bow angle relaxed. It was the first small sign that the aggressive posture might be starting to fade. At 7:51, the MH-60R hovered to the south, its green laser still flashing across the frigate's bridge. Not as a threat, not as an escalation, just a steady message. We are here. We see everything, and all of it is being recorded. Inside the Venezuelan bridge, silhouettes moved back and forth. One figure gestured. It did not look frantic. It did not look angry. It looked more like officers weighing a decision. Keep pressing or save face and ease away. Then came the moment everyone recognized. The frigate turned 5 degrees to starboard. Not enough to call it a withdrawal, but enough to say the pressure phase is over. At 7:52, Gravely confirmed it. Venezuelan formation altering course. Speed dropping to 19 knots. Across the strike group, the tension eased slightly. Not much, but enough for shoulders to loosen, enough for breathing to settle. The carrier did not change course. It did not slow down. It did not send any triumphant signal. That was the message. Steadiness was the win. Consistency was the show of strength. At the same time, the SLQ-32 suite finished assembling the full electronic picture. Every radar sweep, every burst transmission, every signal shift, every electronic fingerprint was captured. And in many ways, that may have been the most important outcome of the entire encounter. Without fully intending to, Venezuela had given the U.S. Navy an unusually detailed technical snapshot of its maritime systems. Analysts in Norfolk would likely spend months examining it. By 7:53, the 2 Venezuelan patrol gunboats fell back behind the frigate and drifted out of their bracketing positions. Their wake spread into a looser, less coordinated pattern. The attempt to pressure the carrier was over. Then, at last, the radio crackled to life. United States naval vessel, we are conducting sovereign patrol duties. Adjust heading if possible. It was not an apology. It was not even a direct admission of what had just happened. But after 18 minutes of deliberate silence, it was the first communication, a carefully worded line meant to lower the temperature without openly conceding anything. From Eisenhower came the reply at once, calm and controlled. Venezuelan vessel, we remain on lawful transit in international waters. Your maneuvers have been recorded as unsafe. Maintain safe separation. There was no anger in the voice, no triumph, only disciplined naval professionalism. By 7:55, the Venezuelan ships were opening their turn. 3 miles out, then 4. Their formation lost its sharp edge. No more intercept angles, no more aggressive corrections. Just 3 fading contacts on a radar display that had held everyone's full focus only minutes earlier. The carrier strike group continued forward exactly as before. No deviation, no hesitation. As the Seahawks settled back onto Eisenhower's deck, the pilots powered down in silence. They already understood the real outcome. No shots fired, no collisions, no lives lost. Control had been maintained not through force, but through discipline. By 7:58, the Venezuelan formation had drifted beyond 6 nautical miles. Their radar signals weakened. Their exhaust trails dissolved into the horizon. On Gravely, CIC finally confirmed, all contacts stable, no further aggressive posture. And just like that, the most critical minutes of the morning ended quietly. No spectacle, no dramatic headlines, no open confrontation at sea. But the message had still been delivered. To Caracas, pressure alone would not force a reaction. To Washington, carrier strike groups remained among the most controlled and disciplined forces afloat. And to anyone watching from a distance, restraint is not weakness, it's calculated control. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't escalation. Sometimes it's holding steady when everything pushes you to react. Now the question is yours. If you had been in command of that carrier, would you have stayed the course or pushed back harder?